So I was scrolling around on Reddit when I got a post from the chronically underused vidIQ subreddit, which we do have and sometimes I forget. The post read, "Help me please." And after reading it myself, I decided to kind of share it around with the team, and some of us had some thoughts.
I know I do.
I also invited John.
Yeah. Hey guys.
So it starts out, "Help me please. I've always wanted to be a YouTuber ever since I was little. And I created a channel about 3 years ago and got 3,000 subs in a few months only from one video, and it got 1 million views. Already, we're like cooking with gas. I think a lot of people would look at that and go, what? Help with what? What's the problem? But it does take a turn from here because they said, I created videos on and off for about a year, and the videos got around 20 views. So after this 1 million view video, things not looking so good. I delete the 1 million view video because I want to start fresh. I make videos, get bored, delete them, repeat. I've done this so much to where I'm not motivated at all, and I have no passion anymore. I have all this equipment I bought for YouTube, but I have yet to use it. I just really need help. I have the equipment, talent, and time to make videos. I just don't have motivation to make videos. It gets heavy quickly, and I think this is very interesting to have a channel have such early success and then kind of get stuck.
It's crazy because a lot of people that go through this, the popularity of one video, it ruins their experience because they have to live up to that popularity, and everything they make after that, if it doesn't make it to that point, it feels like a failure. And this is just totally different.
They said they're extremely indecisive, which if this post wasn't relatable enough to me already, I'm like, yeah, me too. They said they can't stick to one thing for long, and they always want to change one thing about something. So like they want to change their name, they want to change their profile picture, their channel banner. They said they've done this like 50 times on YouTube. I just need help getting a new channel started. I'm pretty sure my old one is shadow banned, which we'll get to.
Dude, I can relate so heavily to this. I went into my old hard drives and I just typed in the search bar banner. 7 pictures popped up. So I had 7 banners on a channel that hadn't put any videos out.
I relate to that in the sense that having a banner, having a profile picture, all that stuff, there is a part of the YouTube experience where you are kind of making this YouTube channel reflect you as a person. And as you grow, your interests change, things change. It's like, how do you get a channel set up to where on one hand, you want the branding, you want it to look consistent, but on the other hand, you want it to reflect your ability as a human to kind of change. The thing I think I related to the most was like staying niche down on one path for a while, because I had my own experience where I made a channel, I made it really narrow about one specific thing. And once that thing kind of dried up, like audience interest and my interest, it became a question of, do I pivot the channel or do I try to figure out another channel to do more things on?
Yeah, I totally get it. So just like a quick history on me and what I've tried to do in my personal channel outside of vidIQ. Originally, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kind of just saw like Charlie, Moist Critical, and I'm like, okay, I want to do maybe commentary. And then I saw some gaming YouTubers and maybe I tried gaming and I tried a bunch of different things. Then I saw a documentary YouTuber and I tried to do that. I made some Netflix content, which ended up blowing up my channel at that point. It's only like 2,000 subscribers, but that was blowing up to me at the time. Once that happened, I did a couple more videos based off of like Netflix content. So the one that really blew up, I planned for it because that 90 show was coming out. And so I decided to do a That 70 Show iceberg video. It didn't exist. And of course it blew up because the popularity was coming. I knew it was going to happen. And then shortly after, the new season of You came out. And so I did like a whole season 1 recap of it, and that got like 30,000 views. At that point, I was like, wow, I really don't like this. And I was seeing some success and I knew I could have followed that and probably made some good money. It just reminds me of this advice that I heard on a podcast. It was an interview with Sahil Bloom. He says that with every decision that he makes, he just asks himself, would I be happy if I did this for 100 days, day after day after day? Would that benefit me? Would it help me in the long run? And if the answer is no, then you don't do it.
It sounds like what you needed to do was decide that, yes, niche, sure, but you have to kind of put yourself first. Like, you ultimately want to be the niche. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you need interests that are similar to a group of people so that you can get this consistent viewer base, right? That's what helps channels snowball. But it's that balancing act between that and then also figuring out how can you make something that you're happy with, that you can continue to make without losing your mind. One of the things that deleting videos can like lead to is maybe that feeling of being shadow banned. This might be why the creator thinks they've been shadow banned, because you had something that was bringing in views and recommendations, you got rid of it, and then your channel started struggling to gain more views and recommendations. Channels don't really get shadow banned in our opinion. Again, it is an opinion because YouTube isn't going to like straight up tell you, but YouTube will tell you when something gets restricted, and they're pretty clear about things like that. If you're feeling shadow banned, it's probably because you're making content that just wasn't a fit for the audience you were originally making content for. Let's say you're like, I'm gonna switch to this specific new niche on my channel. You try it once and it fails. Of course it failed. You were doing something else before. What if you did it 5 times or 10 times, and each time you have the new content recommend the old content through pinned comments and end screens, and people are like, oh, I like this. And then you as the creator saying, good, you might like this. And they kind of start going back through your old videos. Now they've watched 3 or 4 videos and YouTube's like, ah, got it. You really like this creator. It starts to snowball. And once YouTube learns about the viewers who like your content, it can find more viewers like them who like that kind of content.
So when something like this happens where they think they're shadow banned, I totally agree. It could happen one of 2 reasons. One, it's because they did a hard pivot. Like, imagine the algorithm as your friend and you have been a lover of chess your whole life, and then your friend walks in the door and there you are playing checkers, and they're like, what's going on? You confuse the algorithm, so now they have to like back up and figure it out all over again. But another thing, somebody brought this up to me the other day, that they were putting out shorts constantly and they were getting about 3,000 views or whatever. They had that whole flatline thing, which is just the algorithm trying to figure out your target audience, in my opinion. But they started putting out new shorts and they wouldn't get any impressions at all. And I'm like, dude, I don't know without taking a look at your channel, but I can say that YouTube does experiments a lot. And the only thing that I know works is just putting out videos consistently. A lot of people overthink this. It's really tough to try to predict the algorithm when it's pretty simple, man. Just make videos for who you make videos for.
You shouldn't dwell on stuff that you did that didn't do well. If you're spending that time doing that, you're not spending the time making really solid new videos, because you're bummed out. One thing you do is kind of like keep a checklist. Everyone's checklist might be a little bit different, but a couple things I wrote down are like, did I make a video with my audience in mind? Or am I about to make a video with my audience in mind? And you know, it helps to know who that audience is. Am I still excited about this idea a day later, a week later, right? Like depending on when you write it down in your little notebook or whatever, like, is it still something you're like, oh, I do want to make that? Are you prepared for the video to be unsuccessful? I'm going to try this. Am I okay if it doesn't do all right? If not, like, what can I do to be okay with it? Are you prepared for the video to be super successful, like in the case of the creator we're talking about from this Reddit post? Those are just a few things you could be thinking about when going into a new project, but it is important to keep some of them in mind, especially if you are prone to worrying about like, gosh, what if this video fails?
It is super important to have clarity in your direction. So what I did was I decided to put up this giant corkboard. Basically, I separated my niche into categories. And then the ideas that I have, I'll do like research, I'll read newsletters, I'll look at like art history, just things that might apply to my niche. And then if I find something interesting, I'll write it on a note card and I'll stick it on the board, and then I'll connect it to what category that applies to. And so my niche is comprised of like 7-8 categories. And sometimes the thing that I learned, it applies to 2 of those categories, in which I will connect it via string, kind of like those old like true crime mystery videos. When I have something tangible that I write down and I put on a board, it almost gives me like a little bit of a dopamine boost. Like I am doing something, I am being productive. And as soon as I walk into the studio and I take a look at this board, I'm like, oh yeah.
I could learn from that, like writing stuff down. I don't think I could do the crime scene board that you have, but I could definitely do a version of it, I think, for myself. And that's the other thing too, is it's important to just remind anyone watching that like everyone's process is different. It should be different. It should work for you specifically. So my process is bullet points. I start with a Google Doc and I make bullets and sub bullets. And before I know it, like an outline could become a script that way, or my ideas could just start getting fleshed out into the outline from there.
But say you did have a direction. They made some videos and then they got tired of it, but they know that they kind of want to keep doing it, but they're just like, But like, what can they do? There was this story about Seinfeld, and he was talking to another person. They were an aspiring comedian. And he basically said, how do I get motivated to write? And Seinfeld was just like, what do you mean? You just do it. Basically, he broke down that his process was, I lock myself in a room, I get rid of everything but me and a pen and a piece of paper, and then I just sit there and I'll give myself an hour or two. If nothing comes of it, nothing comes of it. But I just spent 2 hours doing nothing but focused on writing. That's the brute force way to get motivated, to get going, because once you start on that path, then it builds up momentum and you keep going. But it doesn't really help if you're not inspired. So what could this person do to get inspired? Recently, I went through like a pretty long burnout. And the way that I got back was I took 7 days and I did nothing. During this whole thing of stepping back from creating and opening myself back up to life and playing video games and playing with my cats and enjoying my life away from content creation, which I almost forgot existed, it really opened me back up to get inspired to create. And I also got in the habit of not scripting every single word I said. So with the 20% of not caring what I say, I found I got in a better habit of articulating my thoughts, which doesn't seem very apparent right now.
I agree with all that advice. I've been telling creators the same exact thing, is like, do something that has nothing to do with making videos. But on the flip side of that too, if it's ideas like you're struggling with, don't forget what it's like to be a fan of the thing that you were making videos about. If it's one thing making this video has taught me, is that I don't spend nearly enough time on the vidIQ subreddit, which I will link down below for you so you can share any of your stories, and who knows, maybe we'll check them out. Otherwise, here is the complete beginner's guide to starting your very own YouTube channel. And if you do find yourself starting over, maybe it'll help.